question I get asked a lot is, how can Karen Reed be sued in civil court for wrongful death after being acquitted pretty much not once, but twice in criminal court? Let's talk about it. You must follow the law. The law says...
Glorious. Is it a lawsuit? Probably. Why not?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up, It's the Law with attorney Larry Forman. Folks, I get this question a lot, and I think it's time that we addressed it in a public forum because I don't know anyone who has specifically tackled this issue up until this point. You see, back in 2023, when Aidan Carney first introduced me to the Karen Reed case, in which I literally exclaimed, "Show me the car, show me the autopsy photos. Match? She did it. Mismatch? She didn't do it." And that's where I've been pretty much since September of 2023. During the first criminal trial of Karen Reed, you all may remember that Judge Beverly Cannoni did not allow any third-party culprit defense. She did not allow the defense to have pretty much anything that they wanted. Anytime the prosecution, led by Adam Lally at the time, would have objected, it would have been granted. Anytime that Jackson or Yannetti wanted something, it would be overruled. It was just a complete garbage of a show because we all know that Cannoni was working for the Alberts and the McCabe's. Now, at the end of the first trial, you all may remember, there were 3 charges. And we later learned, after the case was over, through affidavits by several jurors, that they were unanimous on charges 1 and 3. And they would have told Auntie Bev, or Judge Beverly Cannoni, as she is lesser known, that they are unanimous, Your Honor, on both charges 1 and 3. They were simply hung on 2. And so the judge would have, in a perfect world, declared a mistrial on charge 2 and acquitted on charges 1 and 3. However, Auntie Bev intentionally kept the jury deaf, dumb, and blind to the fact that they should say something. Because they're going to give deference to the court. They're just jurors. They're going to be respectful, unfortunately, of the court. And I wish they weren't. I wish in trial number 1, someone on that jury publicly in the courtroom stood up and spoke out. By the way, Your Honor, I just want to let you know, we are unanimous on charges 1 and 3. That would have been an explosion that would ring beyond the measures of what we can conceive of today. Unfortunately, that never happened in 2024 when the case was over in July, and we moved on to 2025, despite the fact that Alan Jackson tried to appeal that decision by Auntie Bev, her failure to acknowledge the jurors' unanimity to charges 1 and 3, and so on and so forth. So we went to trial number 2. In trial number 2, again, there were 3 charges, only this time the defense got really smart. They separated charge 2 into 2 pieces. Because if you remember, the charge 2 that the jury was having trouble with in trial number 1 was operating a motor vehicle under the influence, thereby causing the death of another, basically. While they separated the death of another and driving under the influence, and the jury acquitted on all 3 major charges, convicting Karen of nothing but simply a DUI. And then you might ask, well, hold on a second. Why is she being prosecuted, right, in quotes, a 3rd time? How is that even possible? A woman who has basically walked away from this case not once but twice has to go through the gauntlet a 3rd time. Well, let me explain. In our American justice system, there are 2 ways where a person could be under the gun. They could be under the gun criminally, as Karen was in trials 1 and 2 in Norfolk County, or they can be sued civilly. And this is where Karen Reed's case is in Plymouth County, on the civil side of things. The burdens are different. And again, you might say, well, Larry, she just won a beyond a reasonable doubt standard. Beyond a reasonable doubt, she beat that, the highest standard in the land, the standard that only activates when there are criminal charges. And she overcame it. They could not prove her guilt beyond the reasonable doubt. Should be case closed. Because in civil cases, Larry, the standard is preponderance of the evidence. And that's where if you've been in a car accident or you've suffered at the hands of a negligent doctor, that's when you call us 1-844-774-HURT, because that's the standard that we use in civil cases, preponderance of the evidence. And that is the standard that the O'Keefes have to overcome against Karen Reed. Well, it seems almost like a no-brainer. There is no way they could overcome it if she had won on a beyond a reasonable doubt standard, but they can still pursue it. And that is the problem with our justice system, folks. You may remember a lot of people like to make parallels between Karen Reed and O.J. Simpson. The problem is O.J. Simpson won on a technicality. He just won because the jury was exhausted, confused, was completely tired of sitting in that courtroom 9 months. There have been documentaries made about the O.J. Simpson trial. 9 months. That jury was literally in prison. They were sequestered. They were under lock and key. They were individually locked into hotel rooms at the end of each trial day. Newspapers taken out, television taken out. I mean, you can imagine how that would drive anyone mad. They can't talk to anyone. They can't read anything. They can't watch anything because everybody was talking about OJ. They could potentially be exposed to some OJ material and they couldn't have it. The justice system needed them sequestered to the point where I believe even one of the jurors completely lost their mind and had to be let go from the case after about 7 months or something like that. Comparing OJ to Karen or Karen to OJ is like comparing OJ to Karen. It just doesn't work, folks. OJ did it. Everybody knows he did it. Everybody knows he was the culprit. And unfortunately for him, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, when the case went to civil court for his murder, guess what? He was found liable and he had to pay money because the standard was lower, but at the same time, and most importantly, the facts were not on his side. Johnny Cochran, Barry Scheck, and the rest of the team were absolutely brilliant in scrambling that jury's mind to the point where the jury was not able to see straight. Mark Forman was an enormous racist, and it was outed during the trial of how horrible of a human being he truly was. And you just can't compare it to Karen Reed. In the Karen Reed case, you have an innocent woman who had police bust out her taillight in order to try and pretend like she actually struck a human being with her SUV. I mean, do you realize what sort of damage, I keep saying this over and over, the amount of damage that would be done to that SUV if she had actually struck John? We wouldn't be sitting here today. And she would be in jail, and rightfully so. But she didn't do it. The original theory, mind you, for those of you who have not been following this case as closely as I have, you may know that the original plan was to blame Lucky, the snowplow driver. He was going to be thrown under the bus for hitting and leaving John to die in the snow. But then when Karen came out with the, oh my God, is it possible? She was honest. She was like, is this even possible? When it wasn't, because she was so worried. They were like, let's jump on this train. Oh my God, thank you, Karen, for giving us the ammunition we didn't know we needed. Let's go after her. And that's exactly what they did. So now, unfortunately, the O'Keefe family cannot stop. They're just incapable of stopping. At this point, Peggy has turned her blinders on. Paul has turned his blinders on. They don't care. They're going to go after Karen, and they're going to keep going after her. And unfortunately, the system allows that. Just because you have been acquitted in a criminal case, again, OJ being a poor example, because there, like I said, he lost in the civil case even though he beat the criminal case. Here, Karen is also going to beat her civil case. It is just inevitable. No matter the ammunition that the plaintiff's lawyers think that they're bringing to the table, with the new addition of BB Fell, I did a separate video on her. She is the latest attorney that has joined the fray in the battle against Karen Reed on behalf of the O'Keefes. I actually think she is Karen Reed's secret weapon, and BB just doesn't know it yet. But that's another story for another video that I actually already done. So go check it out if you have not seen it, where I introduce BB and who she is after doing some research on her. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, of course, as always. Folks, I am telling you, the system is very unforgiving. The system is very brutal. Anybody can sue anybody at any time for anything, and the other person just has to deal with it. The standard, again, is much, much lower. So if Karen Reed can beat the highest standard in the land, it would stand to reason that she will also beat this lower standard of preponderance of the evidence in this civil case, especially given the facts that we have seen up until this point. And within the next few weeks, we are going to see something interesting happen. My sources on the inside tell me, and I'm very much looking forward to covering it on this channel. But again, folks, to those of you asking the question, like, how can she be, for the third time, essentially, it's still a prosecution. It's a civil, prosecution. It's not a criminal prosecution. In my plaintiff's work, I too sometimes refer to myself as a prosecutor, right? I don't work for the government. I prosecute wrongful acts of others, of that person who slammed into you when you were stopped at a red light, or that doctor that misdiagnosed you and you had to go and get a second opinion and more surgeries because of someone else's negligence. We prosecute these people, only we prosecute them in civil court, not criminal court. And the difference is, in criminal court, there is jail time on the line, whereas in civil court, the only question is money. How much is someone paying, and if they're paying in the first place? Is there going to be an exchange of money between two people or not? And that's where we are. So that's it. Karen Reed is never, ever, ever going to see any jail time from this. And they can unfortunately continue going after her in civil court. There's nothing stopping the O'Keeffes, and that's very unfortunate, because if they had opened their eyes, if they had cared enough to at least see the light of truth, well, maybe they would be doing something different. Maybe they would drop the suit against Karen or join Karen in their pursuit of the third-party culprits, the Alberts and the McCabe's et al. It's very disappointing, and I'm with you, folks. I'm 100% in agreement that this should not be happening, and I feel so bad for Karen, because at the end of the day, she's the one suffering through all of this. I mean, come on. There's a woman's life who has been basically on hold for like the last 3.5 years. We're going on 4 years since John O'Keefe has been killed by the McAlberts. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. So, folks, I hope I answered your question. I hope you all learned something. As always, I love every single one of you, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.